Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Linda Dick. I'm one of the many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisements, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. So if you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either a donation or by volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. And today I'll be reading Friday, December 30th, 2022 edition of the Banner and Press. And it is a year in review, 2022. This is a look back at the Banner and Press's most notable stories, pictures, and front pages of the past year. Year in review. In no particular month order, as I see we're going to start the insert page at May 2022. A state of emergency was declared in Minnedosa due to the increased water levels on the Little Saskatchewan River. Workers and volunteers all came forward, working for days to put down sandbags and super sandbags in order to help minimize the threat and mitigate damage. And here are several pictures here. You can see the water that did devastating. July 2022, everything in Neepawa seemed to happen all at once, with many events being hosted on the same weekend. A couple of these activities were the Yellowhead Roadrunners. They had their drag races. Rockin' the River Bend. There's a couple of musicians. The Lily Days, a bunch of beautiful lilies pictured here. And Welcome Aboard the Raft. Another activity was the Riverbend Makers Market. And there's a picture of that. Continuing with the year in review. February 2022, an artist's rendering of the new pool planned for the town of Gladstone was unveiled back in February. There it is. March 2022, Neepawa residents Ernie and Pat Gwozdzik, who have deep Ukrainian roots, shared their perspective of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. There's Ernie on the front page in March, and unfortunately that war is still continuing. Also in March, the Pins and Pal Quilt Guild and others had their work on display for the World Quilting Day, which was on March 19th. Some beautiful quilts there. July 22nd, the McCreary Fairgrounds was host to the Heartland Rodeo Association rodeo event. In June, the Steel Bridge area, located just northeast of Gladstone, faced severe overland flooding. And you can see these cattle are in trouble here in water. April, Carberry had the chance to celebrate the opening of its new fire hall on April 30th. August, author and historian Rick Sparling released his latest book, The 30-Year History of the Neepawa Natives. 1989 to 90 to 1919-20. And in September, a historic local home was destroyed by fire. Members of the Neepawa and Minnedosa fire departments were on location September 9th to deal with a house fire on the 200 block of Mill Street. The building was just over 100 years old. There it is, destroyed. In November, the ribbon cutting ceremony was officially held for the new RCMP building for Neepawa and area. And in June, in recognition of Filipino Heritage Month, the Filipino community in Neepawa organized a full day of celebration on Saturday, June 18th. More year in review. January, we started off with the Best Western announced its plans to build a 67-room hotel in Neepawa, and the expected completion date for the hotel is the spring of 2024. In May, the Shevchenko Dance Ensemble performed traditional Ukrainian dances for the Neepawa Middle School at the Yellowhead Center on May 20th. The event was put on by the students to raise money for those affected by the war in Ukraine. There's a Ukrainian dancer on the front page. Back to January, Gladstone area pilot Blaine Bjarnason wrote a book titled Old Pilot, Bold Pilot, which featured several stories from his career as a bush and seaplane pilot. In October, after several months of speculation, the location of Neepawa's new $127 million hospital was confirmed. The medical facility will go on 40 acres of land on Neepawa's east side, near Provincial Truck Highway 16. A groundbreaking was held on October 17th and featured several dignitaries, including, in this bottom picture here, Dr. Mauro Verelli, Medical Director, Dr. Nichelle Desilets, Physician, from the Beautiful Plains Medical Clinic, Province of Manitoba Health Minister Audrey Gordon, Agassiz MLA Eileen Clark, and Brian Schoonbert, CEO of the Prairie Mountain Health. The artist's rendering of the building, which shows here, was also showcased for the first time to the public. The construction is targeted for completion in 2025. So that will be very, very exciting for Neepawa area to have a brand new state-of-the-art hospital. In August, the Kinsman Courts too held its ribbon cutting ceremony on August 6th. After a long stretch of planning and construction, the new assisted living facility in Neepawa was officially christened. Town officials, residents, and visitors alike gathered at the location to converse, enjoy the ceremony, take tours, and enjoy the food prepared by Kinsman Court's 2 new kitchen staff. In May, several Neepawa residents competed at the 2022 Canadian National Dance Championships. Pictured from left to right here in this photo are Shayna Wakefield, Emma Gale, Kaylee Korolak, Tiana Vasconcelos, she's the teacher, and Danica Robb. And in April, there was an April Fool's Day trick Ken Waddell played a little trick on us with front page of the Banner and Press announcing his retirement, which turned out to be April Fool's, not true. No retirement there. In July and September, Neepawa, Carberry, and the Westman region as a whole lost two tremendous individuals. In July, Ivan Trail, pictured here on the right, who was the heart and soul of NACTV, passed away at age 90. Ivan was instrumental in ensuring that NACTV remained a part of Neepawa from 1977 to 2016. And in September, a sports icon left us, Gladwin Scott. He passed away at age 90. Gladwin's commitment to sport across Western Manitoba as a player, a manager, and an organizer was well known and respected by many. The Neepawa Banner and Press were honored to have been associated with both of these men. Very true. They put in so many hours. And in September, the year in review, the Neepawa Titans regular season opener saw the home team defeat the defending MJHL champion Dauphin Kings 3-2 in overtime. One of the Titans on the front page. And in July, Uncle Tom's Burgers, which is operated by the Delaloy family, opened up in Neepawa. Always a good burger there from Uncle Tom's. And on the back page, continuing with year in review, in February, the Neepawa Titans head coach, general manager Ken Pearson, coached his 1000th MJHL regular season game. Well done, Ken, and we're glad you're continuing on. In July, Agassiz MLA Eileen Clark was given the honor of presenting Lieutenant General Ray Crabb with his commemorative portrait, which will hang proudly upon the wall at the Neepawa Legion building. February 22, photographer Jody Baker captured this amazing visual of a cold winter morning in Neepawa. Beautiful picture. And in April, a large snowstorm passed through Neepawa and surrounding area for several days before and during the Easter long weekend. Pictured here is Jody Chikolsky as he starts clearing away a large swath of snow that accumulated in front of the Town of Neepawa Administration Office. And in August, Mark Moorhouse, former Staff Sergeant of the RCMP, retired earlier this year. And there's a picture of Mark on the front page of the August edition. And Mark, we wish you well. Now we'll take a look at looking back. 2002, local officers, community service recognized. 20 years ago, 6 members of Spruce Plains RCMP detachment have been awarded commemorative medals for the Queen's Golden Jubilee. The medals are presented to Canadians to recognize long-time community service or significant achievement. Staff Sergeant Ron Obadinsky of Neepawa, who has 27 years of service with the RCMP, was recognized for his strong community commitment, particularly to young people. Corporal Bussart of Neepawa was recognized for his achievements in the police service, including the development of programs now used worldwide. Bossart is a 24-year member of the RCMP. Also receiving medals, were Constables Mark Moorhouse and Michelle Peters of Carberry. Hay is a 12-year member, while Huff has served for 7 years. Moorhouse is a 16-year member of the force, Peters a 15-year member. The 4 constables were recognized for community service. The RCMP was given an allotment of 2,200 medals from Government House, specifically for regular and civilian members. The 6 members of Spruce Plains are the latest in the area to receive commemorative medals. And here they are being photographed as part of the celebration for the Queen's Golden Jubilee. Medals were presented to several RCMP officers across Canada to recognize their community service. Those pictured here from left to right are Bob Bossart, Brian Huff, Gord Hay, Lieutenant Governor Peter Liba, who made the presentations, Michelle Peters, Mark Moorhouse, and Ron Obadinsky. And this all happened 20 years ago, December 23rd, 2002. Now, 110 years ago, December 31st, 1912, Neepawa now has a central energy telephone system, the installation being made last week. The waterworks were given a tryout yesterday. The pumps worked all right and the steams were thrown from several hydrants, but a leakage occurred somewhere just after an attempt was made to fill the sand pipe. The CNR is just about ready to utilize the supply. December 29th, 1922, 100 years ago, the mob that infested Neepawa's post office on Christmas Day was an indication of the prevailing activity in that quarter. No less than 178 bags of mail arrived that morning via the Great West Express, and during the day, 500 sacks were handled by the couriers between trains and offices. 90 years ago, on December 30th, 1932, Bryce's Limited have closed their Neepawa store, and the complete stock has been purchased by none other than Safeway Stores Limited, which are still in service today. 80 years ago, December 31st, 1942, in Arden, Kenneth Harper of CDC Shiloh and Mrs. Harper of Winnipeg spent Christmas at the home of his parents, Mr. and Mrs. J.D. Harper. 70 years ago, December 24th, 1952, Mrs. John Law will celebrate her 95th birthday on December 29th. Mrs. Rhonda Law was born December 29th, 1857, in the Court of Grey, near Meaford, Ontario, being the second eldest of 11 children born to Mr. and Mrs. Samuel Bredner. When Mrs. Law came here, there was only about a dozen people. The 2 stores, Clare and Burnell, Davidson and Hamilton, were near what is known as Brown Avenue. The church was also near the top of the hill. And from 60 years ago, December 28th, 1962, Town Council, Thursday night, finalized the hiring of staff for the new water treatment plant. The plant is now expected to begin operations sometime in March. The lease for the airport was received and formally signed and approved at Thursday's meeting. And on December 28, 1972, which is 50 years ago today, Neepawa Creamery Limited was informed this week that its application for a grant from the Department of Regional and Economic Expansion to establish a cheese factory in Neepawa is being rejected. Imagine that. 40 years ago, December 30th, 1982, Hare's Cartage, the Neepawa-based trucking firm, has won the battle with Gardewine north of Winnipeg to be the only hauler into the town of Neepawa, following a decision by the Motor Transport Board last week. The official kickoff of Neepawa's centennial year will be a brief program at the Yellowhead Centre on Sunday, January 2nd. And 30 years ago, December 29th, 1992, Christmas 1992 wasn't quite the celebration that Brian Kirkowich had in mind for himself and his 2 children. An early morning fire last Tuesday wiped out the family's 2-story farm home 8 miles northeast of Neepawa. The loss meant the family wasn't home for Christmas because they no longer have a home. And from Mars Fashions, we have a picture here of a special group of winter coats, jackets, and dresses. 20% to 33 1/3% off regular prices. Happy New Year to all. This advertisement for Mar Fashions appeared in the December 28th, 1972 edition of the press. See the fancy fur around the collars and the bottom of the coat. On Gladstone's glory years, Elwood students. Here's a picture. These students pictured here attended Elwood School in 1944, and they were taught by Mrs. M.K. Duncan. She's shown at the far right. Back row, Stuart McEachran, Joe Irwin, Dennis Hanna. Second row, Grace Livingston, Bonnie Hanna, Jean Livingston, Margaret Livingstone, Alice Loney, and John Unrun. Third row, Bobby Loney, Jimmy Hanna, Edna Livingstone, Ernie Livingstone, Dorothy Loney, Betty Williams, and Dennis Loney. Front row, Joe Livingstone, Donna Loney, Maurice Loney, Raymond McEachran, Agnes Williams, and Walter Livingstone. And that's back in 1944. I'd like to read the thumbs up to the Gladstone Dedicated Senior Center and Town Volunteer Decorators, Linda, Judy, and crew, who continue to dedicate their time to making our town more beautiful each year. And that is submitted by Gary Henderson of Gladstone. Right in the Center, Perspectives by Ken Waddell. New Year's is always a time to reflect, maybe plan ahead, contemplate changes. One thing that I've been pondering is how divided people have become on various issues. I won't air a shopping list of issues, but everybody has a list. There are tons of issues, and everyone has a different list. Everyone has their preferences, and that is a good thing, hopefully. Opinions are like noses. Everyone has one. The problem today is that many people can't overlook the things they disagree about. We need to be able to disagree without being disagreeable. Today's version of disagreeing seems to quickly drift over to hating the person or group that you don't agree with. That is simply not right, and it goes against everything I stand for, and for that matter, it goes against Christ's teaching. That said, even some Christian churches have strayed away from Christ's teachings and wandered away from loving their neighbor to hating those who disagree with them. I believe there is another misconception going around. It goes something like this: it's legal, so how can you disagree with it? Just because an action is legal doesn't mean I have to agree with it. Just to avoid stress, let's take a fairly familiar issue and stay away from the more controversial issues. In the past 100 years, making and selling alcohol has been legal, then illegal, and back to illegal, and back to legal again. Legal or illegal, it doesn't mean I have to agree with alcohol usage. There are many issues, both simple and complex, innocent and controversial, that are legal, but it doesn't mean a person has to agree with them. Again, it's a matter of opinion. The whole idea of enforcing opinions is another phase of human behavior that is under scrutiny, and rightly so. Two issues come to mind. One is the Iran situation, where the government is using violence to enforce dress codes. Seems like a huge mistake. I know how a woman dresses, and what she wears on her head is a huge issue for some segments of the Muslim faith. But really, is it worth killing your citizens over the issue? I think not, and the Iranian government's actions may well destroy the government and perhaps the country with it. The other issue is the abortion issue in the United States, where it appears that the Supreme Court has ruled that abortion is a state-by-state matter and not a national law issue. Whether it be state or federal, it doesn't really matter. There needs to be a law. By the way, Canada doesn't have such a law at all. Abortion is legal at any stage of pregnancy in Canada. In my opinion, abortion is a very serious matter, one not to be taken lightly. It has to be available in cases where the mother's life is in danger. The no legal abortion law jurisdictions will see a rise in dead women. The no restriction states will see a rise in dead babies. Neither opinion is a good one, in my view. Abortion is also a prime example of how serious, informed discussion needs to be applied to an issue. Informed discussion needs to be applied to all issues instead of riots, nasty demonstrations, and military enforcement. The Bible says we are, as much as possible, to be at peace with all mankind. I think that's a good idea, but we have a long way to go. And submitted by Homebodies, Rita Friesen. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. And I likely said that wrong, Rita. And so ends 2022. As is my custom, this column is a bit of a review of my year. If this were to be an account of the new experiences I embraced, it would be a very short dissertation. I did not travel. I did not try anything new and exciting, not food or activity. I kept my head up and I entertained angels unaware. However, I did learn many things about myself and my world. Some of the things I learned I did not want to. One in particular does not affect me now. One of the women that I truly respect and admire is living with metastatic cancer, and it began as breast cancer. And now she is living each day, trying each new medical treatment as it is presented, and required, and educating her friends and followers. Catherine shared a quote from a medical article. "When you die, it does not mean that you lose to cancer. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live." We will all die one day. Perhaps the winner here is the person who does it under his or her own terms, the person who dies peacefully and not at war. Let us focus on the life that people enjoyed before being told, "You have cancer," and remember them as victors in life, not losers in death. Let us stop letting cancer appear to be the winner. Her posts and her courage in sharing her story is one great lesson for this past year. We have slowly begun changing terminology for so many situations, and it is right. I have also learned, relearned, that there is some truth to the adage, "You can't fight City Hall." It is not that I am unwilling to try valiantly to change systems, political and religious. I have, surprise, strong opinions on many topics and some desire to be entertained by more than just me. I get it. There is a reason for some rules, and there are some rules, laws, bylaws, etc., that need to be reevaluated. Just what am I talking about? Well, maybe, just maybe, we should be allowed to have a limited number of hens, not roosters, in our backyard. The whole self-sustaining is becoming more urgent, and some faith family laws and bylaws could do with a revamp. I have learned that people are inherently good. Again, I know that this year has validated that belief. Raising grandchildren, they often asked why I was going above and beyond providing for them and their needs. With a smile, I would answer, "I'm banking bum wipes." After a few years, that would be accepted with a smile rather than, "Ew." I have not needed that type of personal care yet, but they hasten to all my tech needs. From TV adjustments to phone and computer help, I have been fully repaid. I have needed help more than ever lately. I have also witnessed the caring and concern our community shows and shares with so many individuals. Thank you, organizations and individuals that make our world a better place. And out of Helen's Kitchen by Helen Drysdale. Happy New Year. May 2023 bring you health, happiness, love, and laughter. For your New Eve gathering, try these crowd-pleasing appetizers. And she has 2 recipes in the December 30th edition, jalapeno cheese ball and stuffed mushrooms. Both of those would be very delish. Faithfully Yours by Neil Strojein. Dare to excel, run to win. Keeping New Year's resolutions, a simple plan. The old newspaper comic said it best. A frustrated man, seated at his desk, pen in hand, composing his New Year's resolutions. He stares at the blank sheet of paper for a while, then throws down his pen in disgust and yells at the top of his lungs. I resolve not to make any more New Year's resolutions because I know I won't keep them anyway. I understand his frustration. I have made dozens of New Year's resolutions in my time on this earth. Most were either forgotten, ignored, or broken within less than a week. But 2 years ago, circumstances beyond my control forced me to make a resolution that I kept, thanks to a very simple plan that my wife and I devised and followed. The project was easy to identify. We had to clean up that portion of the south side of our property that was between our south fence and the neighbor's yard. We began by identifying the different tasks that needed to be done. We had to remove an old shed, replace it with fencing to enclose our backyard, cut down dead trees, and clean up the dead leaves that were littering that space. They were an eyesore, and they had to go. Next, we estimated the cost of each step in the process. Since I was able to do most of the manual work myself, that reduced our costs significantly. Unfortunately, most of what I saved by doing the work myself was eaten up by the high cost of treated lumber for the fence. This project was done during COVID. Treated lumber prices were high. 8-foot 2x4s and 5-foot 1x6s were hard to get. As I didn't need all that much, local suppliers were able to meet my needs, but the cost was a bit of a shock. We then checked our bank balance to ensure that we had enough cash on hand to pay for the permit, supplies, and services we needed. Then I got to work. The project was completed in record time and at minimal cost. Removing the stumps, selecting the planting new trees will happen this coming spring. I use the same strategy when writing these columns. Each one is a project on its own. Every element in the production process, choosing a topic, researching, outlining, writing the first draft, revising, and submitting to the paper, is completed on a strict timeline so that you get the best piece I can produce. The same applies to preparation for each of the Sunday worship services I lead. The elements in the process are different, but the plan that I follow is the same. This plan can be applied to anything you wish to achieve in the coming year. I don't know what your New Year's resolutions might be. Some of you may want to lose a few pounds or engage in some activities to improve your personal health. Others may want to take that holiday you've been putting off because of COVID or other hindrances. Or this may be the year for a major family celebration, a child's wedding, an anniversary celebration, or a gathering to celebrate a baptism, confirmation, or a special birthday. Whatever you resolve to do, this plan will help you achieve it without adding undue stress to your life or the lives of your families. Try it and see. I wish all of my readers good health, happiness, and prosperity in the new year. And observation by Addie Oberlin. The weather has been very nice, and many of the farmers are happy with the crop that they could harvest and put safely in the barns. I have struggled with my eyesight the last half year, but it is slowly coming back and have found a way to use the computer again. I am very thankful to having some of my family close by who've been very helpful this past year. One of your pastors and his family came to visit me this past year and just recently called me to find out about me not writing in the paper. Much appreciated. Now we start a new year. God is there for us, and I can only wish for all of us to seek His will in the coming year. And other than the classifieds, which we've got here, I'll have you peruse those on your own. There's a few jobs out there. And real estate, advertising, along with the services guide. You can see in the picture. That closes out the paper. The Neepawa Banner and Press for December 30th. And again, Taylor Law Office gives a Happy New Year shout out to all their patrons. And I wish all our viewers and our staff and our volunteers at NACTV a very Happy New Year in 2023. All the best to you. Enjoy the rest of your day.